Welcome, TV Toastmasters and our viewing audience, to our meeting of TV Toastmasters. The meeting will now come to order. We would like to thank our director today, Nikki Bishop, and our camera person, Nellie Bowen. We do have a little club business today. We have officers that attended training, 2 of our officers, and the makeup training for the officers who didn't go and for anyone else who would like to go is going to be Thursday evening, January the 29th, from 6 until 10. And both of the advanced clubs are hosting. I've been asked to be the Toastmaster, and I've asked to provide moderators for each of the 30-minute breakout sessions for the officer. So if someone feels capable of moderating for the president, vice president, education, vice president membership, vice president public relations, and the secretary treasurer will be combined as one, and sergeant of arms, let me know so I can tell them who would be willing to do that. And we do have a vacancy. The vice president of education has resigned. He's very busy swamped at his college, and so he's had to drop out of Toastmasters for a while. So I do have a vacancy there. And remind you that the contest dates are Monday, March 1st for our club. Monday, February the 2nd is our club contest, and Monday, March the 1st, we are hosting the Area 57 contest. And our Loop Division contest will be Saturday, March 27th. So I just want to get that information to you. And if you are wanting to be a participant in the club contest, the rules are in the November Toastmaster magazine, if you do not have one of the booklets. And for the viewing audience who has no clue what I'm talking about, every month when you're a Toastmaster, you do get a magazine that has a lot of helpful hints in that. And this month, our magazine had the educational activities of the Do You Belong to the Ideal Club? And that is one of the educational sessions that they will be having at the makeup training, and then as they break into the officer roles, they'll be discussing how each officer can help their club be the club of choice, have a value club. I would like to turn our meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day. Ray Boston has been with the Toastmasters. He's a charter member of TV Toastmasters, and he is going to be doing our Toastmaster today. Ray Boston. Let's give him a welcome.
Thank you, Madam President. And welcome everybody to what we hope and we know that this will be a very nice session for you to watch. We love Toastmasters, and we want everybody to have a lot of fun, learn something, and maybe be encouraged that one day you will join us here as a Toastmaster yourself. We've got a nice agenda today. We're going to have some speakers, or a speaker in this case. We're going to have what we call Tabletopics, where you'll see some extemporaneous speeches, and that's one of the objectives that a lot of people join Toastmasters for, to learn to speak right off their feet. A lot of times you're called upon in meetings and you stammer and stutter, and Toastmasters is a great place where you can come and learn how to not have that fear, how to put together a little 2-minute speech right on the spur of the moment. So now we have a slightly small group today. I don't know when you'll be seeing this on tape, but we were threatened with some tremendous ice storms, and I think some people might have got hit with that. So today, the first thing we're going to start off with, I'm going to give you what we call word power, because Toastmasters, of course, is all about words. And here's a little word that I want to show you. Now, I know that it's somewhat difficult at this point for everybody to see, particularly you all there out in TV land, and I know you're trying to maybe focus in on this rather closely. Hope the camera is picking this up, if we can get in on a close-up. Like I say, it's hard to see. It almost looks like a ghostly image, perhaps. And of course, that could be, what could be more appropriate, because the word is spirit. And this does look like a ghostly image, but if I could bring that a little more into focus for you, And now I'm sure you can see it a lot more clearly. Spirit, S-P-I-R-T. It's a noun. And of course it has several different meanings, because I mentioned the ghostly spirit, and we have all heard of ghosts and spirits and gremlins, and we even had some gremlins this morning with the threat of the ice storm and getting everything started and having somebody not show up, so you always think of those gremlins and spirits. And of course we could also say that this particular spirit is a spirit in the dark. Get it, folks? Spirit in the dark? I don't know if we're going to throw in a laugh track for that one, but you get the point. Of course, another meaning for spirit is when we have when we're all in a very good mood, or we do something with lots of action, something we enjoy, we say that we were in high spirits. So hopefully you all out there are in good spirits this morning, and will enjoy our Toastmaster session. So we want to move right along, and I want to introduce our Tabletopics master for today, Steve Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and all of our guests that are looking in today. As the Tabletopics master for our meeting today, I had the privilege of identifying a theme. I chose the theme of success, and what I'm going to do is I have several quotations. I will read them and then call upon someone to come up and tell us what their interpretation of that quotation is, what it means to them, what they might think the speaker that the quotation is attributed to was thinking about. There are a variety of things that they can choose to do with this quotation. One of the quotations that I wanted to open up my Tabletopics session today was from Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, and he said, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." Well, let's get on with our Tabletopics. George Santayana is quoted as saying, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Verna, would you give us your interpretation of that quotation?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics. Those who, repeat that to me again, I'm sorry.
Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
Okay. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. This is something that we hear often. I believe I've been hearing this probably ever since I was in school, and there probably is a lot of truth to it, that those who cannot remember the past. It's just like, well, right now we're in a situation with Iraq, and I think one of the things that people often mention is that we need to remember what happened in the Vietnam War. And I think that is one of the things that none of us want to be mired down in a situation like we had with the Vietnam War. So I suppose from that standpoint it is good to remember that. I think also reading history helps us in knowing or being able to avoid certain situations too. I think people that are great historians, especially our leaders, if they have to be historians, otherwise we're going to repeat the same problems we had in the past. And I think that one of the great empires that is mentioned often is the Roman Empire, and ours is often compared to that, where they had ended up having circuses and things like that every day until the empire fell apart. So hopefully we will not get to that point, but I sometimes wonder if we're not facing that, but hopefully not. So that is how I feel about remembering the past. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Verna. Yes, to me it basically is telling us that we can learn a lot from the past. We need to learn from the past mistakes as well as the past successes. One of the other things that we're going to be doing today as part of our table topics session is that later on in the meeting, when we get to the evaluation portion of our meeting, we will have evaluations of the table topics as well. My second quotation for today comes from Dorothy Sarnoff. She says, "Make sure you have finished speaking before your audience has finished listening." Make sure you have finished speaking before your audience has finished listening. Pretty appropriate for Toastmasters, isn't it? Carol, would you come up and give us your interpretation of that quotation?
Mr. Table Topics Master, that is a great quote, and one that I use when I'm speaking before an audience. I say, if you get finished listening before I get finished speaking, please raise your hand. So that's a very good quote for me, because I believe, as it is with great wits, to say much, to speak little and say much. With windbags, I'm not sure what the quote is, but they talk a lot and they don't say very much. So I think that is very good, that you know your audience. And when I'm doing a speech, if I do my speech on organizing for the Mothers of Twins Club, I'm going to give a different introduction, and my speech is going to be different than if I'm giving it for older people on organizing, because older people need to know how to throw things away, otherwise they junk from the grave. But younger people, they need to know how to organize their time, so they stand against the wall and prop up the 2 bottles so they can feed both twins at once. And it's fun to learn your audience. And that is, are you timing me? Okay, that is one of the things that I think that it is very important. And so I am going to finish before my audience quits listening. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Carol. I'm sure that all of us here and all of our audience that's looking in as well can relate to attending a presentation or hearing a speech where they're finished listening long before the presentation is over. This third quote that I have for today, I really like. It's from Bill Cosby. He says, "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody." I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody. Ray?
Hey, hey, hey! Everybody knows Bill Cosby when he says that hey, 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 which is, I believe, a character of his called Fat Albert. And with me trying to imitate it and give an impression, that's one example of trying to please everybody and probably not being able to do it. I should probably just speak to what I know about Bill Cosby. I got to see him fairly recently when he gave a presentation here in our area. He was at Miami University, where my niece just finished graduating from college. He is a gentleman of wit and wisdom. He has been successful in his life. But one of the stories he tells is try to keep within your own domain. You stick to the spirit of what you believe in. You try to do the right thing. And when you have an opinion on something or the way you do something, he advises that you stick with it. Because just like they say, too many cooks spoil the broth, too many ways of you going in different directions about something that you're trying to accomplish can sort of dilute the basic recipe. So stick to what you know. Don't do hey, hey, hey imitations when you're not really capable of really bringing that out. And if you focus on what you want to do, stick to your dreams, you can be successful.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Listening to your response reminded me of some lyrics in one of the country western songs that I don't remember the artist at the moment, but he says, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, I'm going to leave you with a quote today that I liked. I thought it was an appropriate way to wind up our table topics session, and then I will be turning it back to our Toastmaster. Sir Winston Churchill. I like some of his quotations. I think they're particularly insightful. Churchill is quoted as saying, "Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm." With that, I'm going to turn it back to our Toastmaster.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Speaker for today will be Verna Gibson. She is doing speech number 2, and speech number 2 from the advanced manual. And it has the objectives to draw entertaining material from sources other than your own personal experience. The second objective is to adapt your material to suit your topic, your own personality, and the audience. And the time for this particular presentation is 5 to 7 minutes. We're very pleased to have Verna Gibson with us today. She is going to be speaking on a topic called Cancer, Let Me Check My Schedule. She has a lot of experience with this particular subject, as you'll see, and therefore we're very glad that she is able to be with us here today, as she'll point out to you. She speaks from the heart and with humor. She makes her speeches very entertaining for us, but also very informative. Verna was a teacher in the public school system for over 20 years, and I might say from what I've heard, she was a very spirited speaker. And she is a competent Toastmaster and well on her way to becoming an advanced Toastmaster. Once you get caught up with the Toastmaster spirit, almost nothing can keep you away from the meetings. Verna did drop out for Toastmasters for just a short period of time, as she'll be telling us, and I'll give you a clue. Sickness and maybe being married and even death is about the only thing that can keep Toastmasters away from the meetings. And Verna did have a little bit of an excuse for dropping out for just a short period of time, but we're very glad that she's back, and so we'll hear from our first speaker, Verna Gibson.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our viewing audience. Bill visits his doctor after weeks of not feeling well. "I have bad news," says the doctor. "You don't have long to live." "How long have I got?" asked a distraught Bill. 10, the doctor says sadly. 10? 10 what? Months? Days? The doctor interrupts. 9. This is what I thought I was hearing in May of 2002 when I first met with my surgeon. She had just told me that I had breast cancer. And every change that you experience in life, there will be times when you'll wonder if you can endure. However, the only time that counts is right now. I believed that then, and I still believe it. Of course, I admit that the first thing I had to do was to pick myself up off the floor. My spirit was very low. I felt lower than Flat Stanley. He was so flat that he could slide under doors, and he traveled by slipping into an envelope and using the postal service to fly from city to city. 10 years prior to this event, when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, I had heard about Norman Cousins. He wrote the book, Anatomy of an Illness. In his book, he told how he used laughter to overcome pain and depression while living with cancer. Is it possible, he wondered, that laughter has therapeutic value? What he found was that a hearty belly laugh gave him an hour or more of pain-free sleep. After her breast surgery in 1992, Irma Bombeck was given an envelope containing a temporary prosthesis. As she studied the small wad of cotton, she remarked to her husband, "I've had bigger dust balls under my bed than this." Breast cancer. Let me check my cancer. Irma Bombeck had a lot of spirit. She was too busy to think about her condition. She continued to work, maintained a positive attitude, and chastised those who made it sound as if she were near death. But me, what did I do? I fell into a slump. I wasn't much fun. Unslumping myself wasn't easily done. I was in a most useless place, the waiting place. Waiting for a call to go, to have a test or results to show. Healing had come and doctors would know that I was waiting for my hair to grow. Cousin is quoted as saying that death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us while we live. Death is not the enemy. Living in constant fear of it is. So there I was, staring death in the eyes. But what did I worry about? Remember, I never said that I wasn't shallow. I was worried about my hair. Yes, that's right, my hair. I just knew that it would be so traumatic when it fell out. And what if it came back in gray? My oncologist, whose wife had breast cancer, said that was what happened to his wife. Her hair came in gray. However, it turned blonde overnight. Wow! That perked me up and got me excited. Maybe that would happen to me. With a straight face, he continued. He told me that only she and her hairdresser knew how that happened. Laughter is part of the human survival kit. I left that waiting place. Waiting just wasn't for me. I went out and ordered a wig with curls. My hair wasn't something I was going to sit and cry about. Cokie Roberts, a breast cancer survivor, handled her illness with humor and humbleness. She said, "The question I'm asked most often is where I buy my wigs. There's an upside to wearing a wig. I've never had great hair, and I can't do anything with it. Believe me, my own hair has looked a lot worse." Like Cokie, I got lots of questions and comments on my wig. I found also that it was very quick and convenient. I'd shower, dress, and plop my wig onto my head, my bald head. No spending time with a hairdryer or curling iron for me, and it always looked great. You can't beat that. I did get a blessing, though. When my hair finally came back in, it came in curly. I haven't had a permanent in almost 3 years. Before I went to the health spa in Florida with Carol Cormelink, one of our fellow Toastmasters here, I asked my oncologist about going to the tanning salon. He turned to my daughter-in-law and said in a very serious voice that she was to let him know if I even got near a tanning salon, he'd have me put on the list of those who couldn't be trusted. I guess I'm on that list because I did eventually sneak into the tanning salon. Someone once asked Carl Menninger what he would say to a depressed person. He said he would tell that person to get out of the house and find someone to help. This is good advice for all of us. I discovered as I left that waiting place and got involved with living again, my depression and feeling sorry for myself disappeared. I am excited about my future and enjoying a full schedule of living. I quote Nicole Kidman, When you relinquish the desire to control your future, you can have more happiness. Life will always be filled with challenges. Admit this to yourself and decide to be happy anyway. That's what I've done. In the past year, I've moved into a new carriage home. I've taken scuba diving lessons, gone skydiving, traveled, been involved with my grandchildren, begun substitute teaching again, and rejoined the Toastmaster organization. I even made a New Year's resolution to get my body back into shape. I finally got my head together. Now my body's falling apart. If God wanted me to touch my toes, don't you think he would put them on my knees? So it's going to be a tough assignment, but I found a personal trainer willing to work with me. Fake breast and all. Yes, I did eventually have a mastectomy and made up my mind that, like my hair, it was not worth crying over. It was no big deal. Believe me when I say that. It really was no big deal. Mr. Toastmaster.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, hey, hello, sorry. But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Doctor says, chicken says...
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters Club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
So without further ado, the next portion of our Toastmaster meeting will be moved towards the evaluation section. And to handle that for us is our president of TV Toastmasters, Carol Cormerling.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As general evaluator, I lead the educational session. Evaluating is not one of my best roles in Toastmasters. It's difficult for me because I'm so engrossed in the speeches, unless they're doing something very blatant like turning their back and writing on the board and talking to the board instead of talking to the audience. If it's not obvious, I have a hard time finding something that would improve their speech the next time, because I just think it's great the way it is. But other people are much better at evaluating than I am. So our first evaluation today for the Tabletopics person number 1 for Verna's answer to those who cannot repeat the past are, and I forget what that word was, are doomed or what to repeat it. Those who cannot remember the past are what to repeat it?
Those who cannot remember the past are condemned.
Condemned. Okay, I couldn't remember what that was. And to evaluate Verna is Ray Boston, our Toastmaster here.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. Verna was attempting to talk about the subject of those that don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Verna used a technique of asking for the quote again. First of all, she probably in her haste to come up and listening, and you're very excited when you have table topics, and it's a common practice that you can have the question or the quote repeated. And that gives you a little time to get your thoughts together and come up with a quick opening and body and close to the minute or two that you're going to talk. So that was a very good technique that Verna used to hear the quote again and then to launch into the way that she wanted to answer it. And the way that the concept that Verna came up with was to talk about some past wars that we had, past and present, because she talked about how we have currently become embroiled in the war with Iraq. And she compared that to a past situation, our war in Vietnam, where we had perfectly good intentions of going in there, but then we seemed to be caught up in a morass. Of course, the historical perspective is that, flash forward to today, we have gotten embroiled in a war with Iraq, which for a moment in time looked like it was going to be over in almost a blink of an eye as we saw the whole thing played out for us on television. But before we knew it, just when we thought the war was over, we seem to have become more entangled, and we are wondering how we are going to get out from that situation. So sometimes we'd like to think that if we'd have learned more from the Vietnam War, learn how maybe can we come up with a nonviolent, can we come up with a political or diplomatic way to resolve the situation, perhaps we wouldn't be in this mess that we are currently in. Madam Toast Evaluator.
Thank you, Ray. I like it when the people can bring up and have you have new thoughts that you weren't thinking of when you were listening to that. Thank you very much, Ray. To evaluate Carol, Verna and I are exchanging evaluations today. Verna will be evaluating my response to make sure that you have finished speaking before the audience finishes listening. And we'll have our spirited Verna.
Thank you, Carol. Make sure you have finished speaking before your audience has finished listening. I thought that Carol had a very good opening on this. She repeated the quote, and then she applied it to some of her own speaking. She told how she adapts her speaking to the, she makes sure that she knows her audience before she speaks so that she can adapt her speaking to that audience. She used the example of speaking to a young group or an older group, a group of retired people or a group of maybe young mothers with young children, and how she needs to adapt her material to that audience. And she needs to be aware of her speaking and, of course, to finish speaking before the audience has finished listening. That is very important. Carol mentioned a couple of things. She mentioned about windbags, which I thought was kind of a funny little comment, that they speak much but say little. They put out a lot of air. I think we've always all heard people like that. And Carol did finish her speaking with a repeat of the quote, which I also thought was very good. That was a good technique to finish up with a repeat of the quote. And Carol did indeed finish speaking before I had finished listening. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Verna, for those great words. As I was the evaluator for the third speaker of the day, Ray Boston, and his key to failure is trying to please everyone, which I believe in. And Ray, I thought that was great, the energy that you brought to the table, to the lectern, when you did the hey, 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 and then you commented on that. I liked it, even if you didn't think, because I don't remember Fat Albert, but I liked that you brought that to that. You have a great smile, and I think when you get up here and if you have a smile when you're talking, I want to listen to someone more intent if they are looking pleasant and are easy to look at while they're talking. So I liked your great smile. There's only one thing. I did find something with you when clasping and unclasping the lectern with the microphone right on the lectern. It makes a little more noise than people might notice in a club meeting setting. But that was the only thing that I had written down about the clasping and the unclasping. I really liked the way that you brought in the word of the day, and since it was your word, I guess it was easier to bring in the spirit of the thing and how you used it several times. So I enjoyed your table topics very much. Our next order of business is the evaluation of Verna's speech. Verna's cancer? Let me check my schedule. And you can start the timer because I'm starting your evaluation. I like that Verna used the word of the day. I'm always impressed. A lot of times I'm so intent on what I'm going to do that I forget to use the word of the day. So I was glad to see that you used it. And how did we know that the audience was entertained? Well, you could tell by the laughter, and you could tell by the silence that they were listening for what you were about to say next. I thought your flat Stanley, I had not heard that before. He was so flat that he could fit into an envelope and mail himself places. That was great. I liked when you had the hair coming in gray, that brought laughter from the group. And when it turned blonde the next day, and only she and her hairdresser knew for sure, I like that reference. I think the theme of your message was that laughter truly is the best medicine when things happen to you. If you use laughter, then you can overcome things. And you are to use other material and adapt it to yourself. And the Irma Bombeck and the Norman Cousins, you referred to them. They were very good reference the material. And did you appear comfortable? Yes, you were very comfortable. You lived this. You've talked about this before. You were not uncomfortable doing that. And I love that death is not dying. It's what dies inside us when we're living. I think that's a great quote, and I try to remember that. And a lot of times I don't want to lose the hope that, yes, it will be better. Because when it dies inside you, you are a living death. And I liked your poetry. That was a nice little, in the middle there where you had your little poetic part of the speech. And I liked the body language, and when you were saying about if God had intended you to touch your toes, he would have put them on your knees. That was great, because that's for me. I have a hard time doing that. What part of the speech were most effective? I thought all of it was very good. When you mentioned about the tanning salon, I was the only one who laughed. The other people didn't laugh. I don't know if they weren't listening that well or what, but that was the only thing that I was the only one. And you did rush. When you saw the yellow card and you knew you had 1 minute, you you put it in race. You were going about 100 miles an hour there towards the end. But other than that, I thought that everything went together well. I liked your story, and it brings hope to people. If you have that devastating news of the big C, it doesn't have to have you die inside, that you can live with cancer rather than die with it. So all in all, a great speech, Verna. I love your speeches, and I look forward to them. That is the last part of the evaluations. We also have the all-counter grammarian report. And Ray, when you come up to do that, I'm going to let you also introduce the timer so that we're not back and forth and back and forth. Okay, Ray Boston, who will be giving the all-counter and grammarian report.
But before I do this, and because Verna asked me to be also looking out for things that she was doing, I really wanted to say again that I did enjoy the speech. And since Carol pointed out to me the problem of grasping onto the lectern, I think Verna could improve her speech in just one more way. She came up and she had some great props that really enhanced her point, but she did the little thing of having them in a plastic bag, which is going to be noisy, and she distracted us and you out there at home watching by having to reach down into the bag, make some noise, and come up with each prop. Probably it would have been, since she only had 2 or 3 things, she could have come up and then placing down her paper, she could have placed the envelope down, maybe had the cotton ball just here ready to easily reach. Before she started, she could have had the wig here. And those are lessons not just for speech, but when you're, again, doing the things at work, you can put these things into use. Be prepared, have your ducks all in a row, and things will come out just a lot more smoother and help you to be more relaxed. When it comes to the grammarian's report and the ah counter, I am the Wizard of Oz, as they say. I sometimes tend to and ah, and that is one of the most prevalent things that we as speakers do. But today, as I listened to the speakers, I heard very few ahs, and since I was not able to maybe listen to myself, I'm sure I had a couple. But our speaker, Verna, and the Tabletopics, there were very few ahs. One thing that I did notice when Verna was speaking, she used the term empire, and I had just a little bit of trouble discerning whether you were saying empire or umpire. And I know you used it twice, and it's just one of those things, and sometimes you say, did I hear that? Or did I really hear what I thought I was listening to or whatever? But we want to work on our enunciation, and when we do, we can enunciate just as clearly as Steve Ahrenholz did as he gave us our table topics. Every word was very precise, gave us some great quotes. So that is I think we did very good. As Carol pointed out, I managed to use the word power of the day, spirit, and Verna got caught up in the spirit and used the word in her spirited speech. And if that isn't enough spirited ways of saying the word spirit, I don't know. So I won't say spirit again until the next time I say it. Like right now, I hope you've all had a spirited, enjoyable time of watching us and learning from Toastmasters. The next thing we want to have, as I pointed out before, is the timers report, because that's a very important part of presentations. So right now we'll have Verna Gibson back again to give us the timers report.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. On our timers report today, I was the first table topic, and I had 1 minute and 48 seconds. Carol was second, had the second table topic. She was 1 minute and 29 seconds. Ray was the third table topic speaker with 1 minute and 32 seconds. On my speech, I had 7 minutes and 32 seconds. And Carol is right, I did put you said that, yes, you said that. I did put myself into high gear on that, I have to admit, I did. Okay, as far as the evaluations, Ray's evaluation was 2 minutes and 5 seconds. My evaluation of Carol was 1 minute and 42 seconds. Carol's evaluation was 1 minute and 13 seconds for the table topic. And then Carol evaluated me, and that was 3 minutes and 3 seconds. So, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Verna. We've all had a very enjoyable session today. And see, I just threw in another I was listening to myself. And along those lines, one other thing that I do want to point out, that we sometimes use a filler of starting a sentence and then stop and then stopping. And that did happen. I think it happened to Carol a couple of times, and I believe it happened to you, Verna, and it probably happened to me. That is another common time filler. Sometimes it's just a slip, but we'll start to give the next sentence, and we will think that we didn't say it well for some reason, and we'll repeat it, when just as often we actually have said it, but we just panic a little bit and try to repeat it again. So just another thing to watch out for. So I hope everybody has enjoyed the Toastmaster session today. We invite you to come and join us. I think it's safe to say that you can call the station here at Anderson Union Township Cable. They can give you some ways to get in contact with us so that you can come and join us, come to a meeting, find out what Toastmasters is all about, and enjoy it live. There's nothing like it. So I enjoyed being your Toastmaster today, and so now I want to turn the meeting back over to Carol Cormerly.
Thank you, Ray. And with my senior moment there, I had something to add. Oh, yes, I know what it was. One of the things that we do when we have a pencil in our hand, we twirl it and do things up here. So that's one of the things I've been trying to learn, is to leave my pencil behind. We had a great meeting with just the few people that could be here today. And in Toastmasters, 2 is company, 3 is a meeting, and we need a couple more people than that for our meetings, because we have a camera and the director so that we need to have. So I thank everyone for being here. Does anyone have any comments to make or anything they would like to add? If not, the meeting is adjourned.